45 years, 0 name changes, new offices, more staff, improved technology to better serve you. Education, services, investments. Think real estate, think Marshall Reddick. Brokerage, property management, private lending, creating financial independence through real estate since 1979.
All right, I think we're back, guys. Hopefully we're ready to rock and roll. So anyways, I'm gonna be quick to talk about myself here, but yeah, I've been a licensed real estate agent for over 10 years. I've done a lot of out-of-state transactions. I'm a investor myself and own investment properties. And the reason why I really enjoy this topic is because it's something that personally, I struggled with when I was trying to acquire my first property, which was figuring out whether I wanted to focus on single family or multifamily investments. I think it's one that people kind of perseverate on and get what's that analysis paralysis, right? And how much can I make my capital stack work for me, and which one is the best investment to purchase now? So we're going to cover some of those details today. Of course, I'm an advisor at Marshall Reddick along with Danisa, Peralta. And so if you guys have questions after the presentation tonight, we're happy to sit down with you guys on a one-on-one consultation and walk through your own personal circumstances, your own personal criteria, and the questions you might have about Danisa and I, who have kind of gone through this experience a few times. So Danisa, if you don't mind running us onto the next slide. Topics we're going to cover today. Well, why invest in today's market versus waiting for the next 6 months? What's important about the opportunities today? The expectation of where the rates are going to be. A lot has been changing in the marketplace in terms of, if you guys have stock market or stock portfolios and retirement accounts, you're probably seeing what's going on with your portfolios and wondering how is that going to have an effect on real estate, and maybe is it a scary time or an opportunity to invest right now? And of course, we're going to talk about the benefits of multifamily and some of the cons maybe associated with multifamily, and same thing with single family. What are the benefits and pros and cons there? And then I think it kind of goes by the wayside. People tend to put property management sort of to the side until it's needed, but I can tell you from experience that property management is such an essential component of successfully operating an investment asset and really understanding the importance of it. It's one of those things that you kind of figure out as you go through your own projects and realize it's a struggle to get a hold of vendors and find them and vet them and manage contractors and collect rent and enforce leases. So we'll talk about maybe why you might want to consider using property management on your next investment. And then financing, that goes pretty much hand in hand with interest rates, but there are some components to multifamily financing that we'll dive into that are a little bit different than the conventional single family financing.
We have some goodies for you on that.
Yeah, definitely. And then of course, for property examples, we're going to take a look at different properties, both here locally as well as out of state, that we can examine as opportunities for you guys in today's market. So
that's right.
And so sit back, relax, and learn. Ask questions in the chat, and we're here for you guys after you fill out your consultation forms to meet with you. So for those of you that are new here, Marshall Reddick, we like to think of ourselves as a one-stop shop for real estate. So we offer 4 distinct services. First, our brokerage. We have agents in each of our markets that we have offices in that specialize in helping investors find the specific property that matches their criteria and their goals. So not every real estate investor has the same goals. Single family might sing to you today, or maybe it's multifamily that really strikes a bell with you. And so we have some agents that specialize in multifamily, some that specialize in single family, and we're on track to complete around 500 transactions this year, which is pretty fantastic. And then, of course, as I mentioned, I think a small piece of the puzzle is acquiring that purchase, but really it's about the operation of it. And so we manage, close to 3,000 units across multiple states for our clients when it comes to property management. So we have maintenance technicians, maintenance coordinators, tenant coordinators, renovation experts, senior property managers, accountants. We have a whole team here to help service your property. And then, of course, a lot of people have a little bit tough time trying to find conventional financing if you've got a big portfolio, like some of the investors that Danisa and I know, you might not be able to qualify for conventional financing if you have 10 properties in your own name. So we are a private money lender, and we do some pretty creative, unique financing for home flippers, for wholesalers, for bridge debt. But we do specialize, just as a side note, in non-owner occupied residential real estate. So only investment product, only in the investment space. We don't do commercial loans. We don't lend to homeowner occupied properties.
Yeah, although you can use private money if there is no other option to buy your own property and live in it.
Yeah, potentially. And then of course, when it comes to other investment vehicles, well, we offer an investment fund. So we raise capital from our capital partners and lend that money out to our borrowers, and we pay a really healthy return to our capital partners. It's a very safe way to invest in real estate notes, essentially. It's note investing. And
I mean, Chris, wouldn't you call it true passive income?
Yeah, it's extremely passive. I'm an investor in the mortgage fund myself, and I just kind of collect my quarterly distributions of 2%.
You're the bank.
Yeah.
Basically, you're the bank.
And what I like about the Marshall Reddick private fund is I'm not investing in individual notes. It's a collection, it's a pooled amount of capital. So essentially it's dispersed across a couple hundred loans across the country, and Marshall Reddick does all the underwriting for me. I don't have the time to sit down there and, underwrite every deal. And I also don't have the cash to go invest with 200 grand with one particular property. I mean, that's a little scary. So having it distributed across hundreds of loans is really nice. So but I did mention we have offices across the country. We've got presence in 5 different states now: Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, Texas, and California, and multiple offices in these states. And it's important for us to talk a little bit about why we choose those markets, for sure. So it's not an accident that we ended up in those states, that's for sure. We invest in those particular markets because they're very attractive, and we tell our clients
super attractive.
Yeah, we tell our clients to look at these places because they offer something that, well, frankly, California doesn't, right? Texas is different than California. Florida is different than Texas, and they all have a little bit of uniqueness attributed to them, but they do share a lot of commonalities, which is the job market needs to be strong. There needs to be growing employment there. We want to see employers moving to these states and opening up offices and complexes there. So we don't want to see a high unemployment rate. Vacancy rate also needs to be very healthy. We want to see demand for rental property.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And economic diversity, this one can't be overstated enough. We don't want to invest in markets that have only one employer or a couple of employers that are all focused in one particular niche or market. I think of like Detroit in the 70s, and then when manufacturing left and went overseas, and the entire city kind of dissolved, and it's taken decades really to rebuild itself. So we don't want to be in places like that. We want to be in markets that have healthy education, military presence is really great, technology and healthcare. All of those factors play a major component in a healthy economy in a particular market.
There's a true path of progress for all these companies as well. There's incentives that the counties, the cities are offering these companies to come in and then provide more job growth as well. So a lot of diversity is what we like to see.
Yeah, definitely. And you said path of progress, where I think housing affordability is an important component to path of progress, because here in California, it's a little tough to see that the median single family home price is $1.1 million and then think that's going to just continue to grow forever, right? But looking at Texas and Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky, the average home price is at or below the median national price, which is around $400,000 right now. So in San Antonio, where the average home price is $330,000 for single family property, and I know it's in a growing economy, and I know that unemployment is low, and it's a solid job market, it's landlord friendly, strong education. Well, I have a pretty full of confidence that that price is going to go up, right? It's going to at least meet the median national home price. And of course, I mentioned landlord friendly there. We're in California here, sitting in our office. It's the least landlord friendly place you could be. It's very tenant friendly. We have just a million laws that we have to keep track of. Our property management team does that for us, of course. But Texas, we measure evictions in weeks, not months and in some cases years, right, here in California. And then lastly, reliable property management is essential.
So essential.
I know folks that, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you talk to investors that invest in little tiny towns like Topeka, Kansas or something, and there's one or two property managers and they choose one and that guy screws them over, and it's like,
it's a nightmare.
Yeah, and you have nowhere else to turn, right? So investing in larger metro areas is a fantastic choice, right? Where you have multiple property managers. And this is a slide I like to show with pride because these are my team members. Danisa, I'm sure you're somewhere in here.
Actually, not yet. But these are team members outside of our office.
Yeah, as well as outside of our office.
Yes,
so this is a compilation of pictures of our folks that are across all of our different offices and markets. Everyone from, in-house analysts and private money lenders, property managers, real estate agents, leasing agents, and our operations team, marketing folks. So this is the team that kind of makes it all work and optimizes your income and helps you guys sleep at night when it comes to us managing your properties.
And that sign right there on the top left picture is definitely that big, by the way. You can see it from the freeway.
Yeah.
What I'm told.
You can see it from the Hubble telescope. And this is Danisa Peralta.
And this is me. Thank you, Chris. That was amazing. Chris will be back with us in a few, just as I cover a few things. So who am I? Just know that you're in good hands, with both Chris and myself. Why? Because we've been there, we're living it, and we're helping our investors. Ultimately, we want to help you either get started or get more assets into your portfolio. And we just like to walk you through that. I am also an experienced landlord. I've helped a lot of clients purchase and sell their properties. And I had my own, flipping business at one point as well. So what I'm doing now is just focusing on helping our investors increase their portfolio and get started. So that's a little bit about me. All right, so let's get into the meat of this today. So what is important about investing today versus waiting? The time is now. The time is always now. I really believe that. Now we're specifically focusing on out-of-state investing. Doesn't mean that you can't invest in California. We will guide you through that as well. But there are so many seller incentives right now, especially with new construction, rate buy downs, and some really cool deals that we have to offer you that you can take advantage of with new construction that will give you interest rates as low as 4.25%. And these properties are cash flowing. So this is what's in it for you guys. There is inventory to be had out of state, a little bit, not so much here in California, as we continue to see inventory is low, but out of state is the place to be for investment and growing your portfolio.
Yeah, and why, if you don't mind me.
No, go ahead, please.
I think why that might be the case is just because we've seen a lot of home builders where there's plentiful land, like in Texas or in Tennessee, take out new construction development loans back in 2021 when debt was super cheap. And they started building up a lot of communities and a lot of housing, infill lots in Florida. And, as interest rates decided to rise, I think with the input of Jerome Powell, right, it's been a little bit trickier for them to offload their inventory. Right. So, the buyer pool has shrunk down because affordability has really been impacted, but that hasn't really had much of an impact on demand from a rental perspective, which is interesting. But from a buyer perspective, it is. So the builders are really motivated to sell the product. They put in a lot of incentives, and there's quite a bit to choose from. So it's a bit more of a buyer's market out of state than I would say. So, compared to California. Sure.
Most definitely. Lots of advantages for you guys to invest out of state, and then we'll go over specifically why, and we'll actually show you the numbers. So this is a quote from our in-house lender, Mr. Reed Hazard. He has been with Marshall Reddick since the beginning. And what we're seeing right now, as he says here, is that we are getting a little bit better over time. Yes, there's been some inflation, but we're getting closer to, as it says here, the 2% objective. But ultimately, what you guys got to know about this quote is that we're definitely getting closer to that interest rate cut. The Fed will continue to monitor what's going on within the summer months. We are very curious to see what's going to happen in September. But as statistics show, there is an 87% chance that rates are going to come down. So what does that mean for you guys? That means you guys got to be on the ball and be prepared to jump on these deals that are going to come, because the interest rates are going to be lower, and you want to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think just as a takeaway here is that we've been trying to get to this 2% objective for a long time now, ever since we found out that inflation was spiraling out of control. And the Fed set that target, but they're also monitoring a lot of other factors like the jobs report and the unemployment rate and
CPI.
CPI. Unemployment has spiked recently, so that's why there's been a lot more focus. Well, A, that's kind of what you're seeing reflected in your stock market portfolio, but B, that's why you're seeing a lot of people pressing for the Fed to come out and do another rate cut or do a rate cut in September. And they've come out recently, just in the last couple of weeks, and said that's on the menu. So we'll see what happens in September, but we're anticipating definitely a little bit of a pullback on rates.
Definitely, and of course elections are right around the corner, so that's another reason, big reason why.
Definitely.
So why multifamily? Chris, why multifamily?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons here. I mean, we have a few put in front of us right now. Economies of scale is something that's certainly worth reviewing. How you can get multiple doors with multiple rents growing at the same pace versus just a price per door on single family, because it's going to take you guys a lot longer to get to 10 units by buying one single family at a time. And we'll go over why, kind of how the math works on that here in just a little bit. And then of course, competition for multifamily is significantly less than single family. That's just simply because there's a smaller buyer pool, because primary residences make up for the majority of single family purchases. And in terms of cash flow, I think for the most part, cash flow is going to be higher on single family if you compare the same asset class, right? If they're both multifamily is going to be higher. If it's being compared to a similar single family in the same neighborhood, right? The same area. So multiple doors definitely allows for more cash flow and more insurance of income for our owners. And this is a pretty neat little illustration of economies of scale. Essentially, the point here is that you're going to have to purchase 3.24 single family homes to replicate the same income on this multifamily, which is $6,000. So this single family, it's a hypothetical example, but if it brings in around $1,800 a month in rent, and you're trying to get to $6,000 a month in rental income, you're gonna have to spend quite a bit of money to try and achieve that. Now, this multifamily, it is gonna cost 850 grand, but you're gonna have to buy 305,000. You're gonna have to buy 3.24, which adds up to almost $1 million in purchases. So I think you can get to that $6,000 rental income a lot quicker, and it's gonna be a little bit more affordable to get there.
Right. I mean, but if you haven't started with multifamily, we can always start with single family, right? Of
course.
Let's just start somewhere. Yeah. Let's get that money working for you.
In terms of competition, we kind of cover this a little bit, but I think one thing to consider is that multifamily isn't really everywhere. So you're going to be maybe relegated to certain parts of a city or certain areas. Something to keep in mind when you're looking at, what type of tenant do you want to attract when you're buying multifamily? It does have a higher entry price point. So one multifamily is going to cost quite a bit more than one single family for the most part. And it generally, a more experienced investor is who it's going to be a little bit more attractive for, because there can be more risks, right? Tenant quality might suffer, and of course there might be some deferred maintenance on those properties. Now, higher cash flow, this certainly can be a benefit of multifamily, because you've got multiple doors. If one door goes vacant, well, you've got another door still paying the mortgage for you, right?
That's huge.
Yeah, I think that's an essential component when looking at multifamily. More doors equates to more rental streams, which definitely improves your cash flow. Why single family? What do you want to take this one, Danisa?
Well, single family, it is more affordable, right? Because price point is a little bit lower compared to multifamily properties. And single family homes tend to appreciate a lot faster because there is a higher volume of transactions out there. Typically, we'll see right now what the numbers are, but I believe it's about 69% or so of transactions nationally is made up of single family homes. And they're more easily tradable because it could be purchased by an owner that wants to live in the property, or investors that could be out-of-state investors, or you could live in one and maybe rent out the other. So
definitely more liquid.
More liquid, definitely.
I think that's something to think about is multifamily also tends to be on, if it's 5+ units, tends to be on commercial loan products.
Right.
And those are shorter term notes, shorter term loans. And, if you've got all of these notes coming due in a couple of years because of interest rates spiking, they may have a little bit more of an unpredictable sense of what's happening with your appreciation and depreciation on your multifamily asset, where it's a little bit more consistent, I would say, with single family.
Definitely more consistent. On the affordability side, like we talked earlier, it's just that it takes less money to buy a single family home, right?
Yeah, and less down payment. Definitely.
And less down payment. Now, if it is an investment, then true investment, we're looking at a down payment of about, 10%. Is it 5% now?
Well, for single family,
Yeah.
5% is doable if it's your primary residence, but it's still, for an investment product, 20% is still mandatory. But on multifamily, you're pretty much tied to 30% right now.
Right.
For the 5 units and above. I mean, you have to get some cash flow out of that multifamily in order for you to qualify. And that's on a debt service coverage ratio loan. It's a little complicated to talk about, but essentially you need cash flow to substantiate the investment from the lender. And if you can't get the cash flow, well, you're not going to get the loan, and you have to put in more capital for that down payment with a higher interest rate environment. So we've seen a lot of multifamily with 35, 40, 45% down just to make the deal work.
Right.
20 to 25% is totally adequate for single family investing.
Yep. And because it is one property, we're talking about one single family residence. Yeah, the maintenance is a lot lower than, 4 units, 5 units, 20 units for sure, and a lot easier to manage. Even though, this is armchair investing for you guys. What that means is just lay back on your chair, and then we'll do all the work for you. So appreciation. Typically, when you compare single family with multifamily, you're looking at a faster and higher rate of appreciation for homes because, again, like we said earlier, there are more transactions. And so because there are more transactions, there's higher volume, that is going to drive up prices a little bit faster, higher and faster. So the bigger buyer pool is there as well. Less buyers during the multifamily state that we're in.
Yeah.
And then also primary residence buyers are willing to pay more for their personal home. Why? Because it's an emotional purchase.
It's an emotional purchase, exactly.
Yeah.
Multifamily is really just underwritten by what's happening with rents, really. I mean, that's essentially it. So if rents drop or if interest rates spike, well, multifamily pricing takes a hit. So not necessarily the case with single family. We've seen rent is kind of not really affiliated with single family home pricing when it comes to appreciation. And we saw interest rates go crazy here in California, and prices for single families still shot through the roof.
Up.
Yeah, still way up. So
still way up. I mean, even if you are wanting to invest in single family homes, where we are seeing that the numbers are the strongest are places like Texas, Tennessee, and the Florida markets. Again, Chris covered this earlier. landlord-friendly states. These master plan communities from these developers are giving us so many great incentives, and that's why these properties are cash flowing versus, investing here in California, for example. And when it comes down to you holding it for whatever time period, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is, you can still do that with single family as well. You have the option to be a primary residence buyer or an investor, which is a huge incentive. Like we were talking about, maybe on the multifamily side, living in one, renting out the other. On the single family side, you can, still just rent out the property to a good tenant. And you don't have to worry about that because we'll be doing the work for you. So the last point here, it says, the majority of the housing stock in the US is single family detached homes compared to multifamily. All right.
Oh, financing. Yeah, this is where it gets interesting here. So the single family and 2 to 4 unit is the residential space for financing. And we mentioned down payment requirements are 20 to 25%. You're going to get these on 30-year fixed, or at least at the very minimum 30-year amortized loans. For the most part, the majority of loans are 30-year fixed on single family. There is a really great product at a 10-year adjustable rate mortgage that's attached to some of the properties that we might show you today that have lower rate financing because it's a 10-year arm, meaning that after a 10-year period, the rates will adjust, and it's tied to an index, meaning it's tied to a rate setting in the marketplace. So it's sort of knowable what that price is going to be, but it will adjust every 6 months after 10 years. So you might want to think about refinancing if you do get an adjustable rate before 10-year period when rates eventually lower. I would like to think, Danisa, that rates are going to go down a little bit in the next 10 years. I would hope so. But of course, another component here is just less points. There's less costs up front if you're going to get financing on a single family home. And there's no prepayment penalties. Whereas if you're looking at a 5+ unit multifamily building, you've got really big down payment requirements. I think it says here 25% or more, but realistically, in today's a high interest market, like I said, 30+ is kind of your common average. Yeah, I can't really think of a 25% down payment I've seen in the last year that's even been floated around or worked. You have more loan products available to you, like adjustable rates, DSCR, and interest-only loans. But those loan products are at higher interest rates than your conventional standard Fannie Mae single-family home price, right? I mean, those tend to be 8, 9, 10% interest rates for multifamily right now.
Right.
So you got to think about that when you're looking at this as an example. And of course, costs for points. So your annual rate is higher because you have more loan costs associated with the loan. And the terms, I mean, I would hate to be locked into a rate that is either going to be for a couple of years, or if my loan balloons in 3 to 5 years.
Right.
That's what a lot of scary stuff is happening in the multifamily sector, is that folks locked in really low interest rate loans for a 5-year note, and then they got a balloon at the end of that. Rates have spiked up. They can't refinance.
No, it's tough. It's tough. And some of those investors were betting, they took on bridge financing at that lower rate, and all of a sudden now that it's up, now they're potentially losing the property just because they can't afford it.
Yeah, they can't cash flow on it, they can't afford it, and you can't get a loan, like I mentioned, on multifamily.
You can't refinance.
Unless you're cash flowing, unless you have money, and they don't have the money to inject as an additional down payment into the deal to make the numbers work. It's a lot of capital, right? Think of a $5 million multifamily property having to come up with an extra $1 million just to make the numbers work. So I'm not to scare you guys away.
No, exactly.
But this is simply something that needs to be taken into consideration when you're looking at making this decision. I think personally a sweet spot for me on multifamily is the 2 to 4 unit range. That's just because you get the residential financing and you get the benefits of 2 to 4 units. You're getting that, that acceleration of doors. And one thing that I think is really, it's not on here, but it's really important to understand is recently Fannie Mae decided to allow for primary home buyers not going through FHA to put as little as 5% down if it's their primary residence, meaning they live in one of the units and rent out the other 2 or 3. And that's really expanded the available buyer pool for 2 to 4 units. And I think home price appreciation for 2 to 4 units is going to track very similarly to single family in the future,
Right.
as the word gets out that, hey, I can buy a $500,000 multifamily, live in one unit, rent out the other. That helps me pay my mortgage, rather than buying a $400,000 single family home and having no assistance, right?
Definitely. It's called leverage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yes, not to scare you, like Chris said, Reed Hazard will hold your hand throughout this process. We would never put you in a position where it's a precarious position. We look at the numbers very, very closely. And he's been in the game for many, many years now. Yeah, I was going to say about 20 years now. He has his own office here in California, but he's licensed everywhere in the US. And he's been one of the main people that has put these deals together so that you guys can take advantage of new construction as low as 4.25%. And we'll go into it a little bit. Actually, the next slide tells you exactly what this is. It is a 30-year amortization tool, but it's fixed for 10. And you have a couple options. And a lot of this is going to be covered by the developer, by the seller. So that way you don't have to come out of pocket with hardly anything unless you want to buy it down even further. So these are great financing options that you can take advantage that is only really eligible for our clients.
Yeah, through Reed and through some of the builders that we've built relationships with. I mean, it's essentially in a nutshell, rates for investment product are, maybe 6.5% to 7%, depending on your FICO score and your debt to income ratios and all that good stuff. The builder saying, hey, and instead of us just dropping our prices, right, and really kind of screwing ourselves over on our other comps and our other sales in our community in the future, let's just buy down the interest rate. And let's buy it down to a rate that's really attractive for investors. So if you want to know a little bit more about how we're getting to 4.75 or 5.25, and in a few cases 4.25 on single family homes and multifamily properties, give Danisa and I a shout, and we'll set up a meeting with Reed and the three of us and go into more detail.
Yep. Okay, so this is where it's super key as to your asset, being very successful. And I'll let Chris take over and really talk specifically about how this will work.
Yeah, like I said, I've learned from my mistakes with my property. So
likewise.
That's why I like to talk about property management. But essentially we pride ourselves in our property management service that we give to our clients, because we build it from the investor mindset, which is we don't want to be making money when you guys are losing money. And what that means is we have a no profit center for maintenance. We outsource all of our maintenance. We try and problem solve directly with our tenants when it comes to any issues over the phone, right? Rather than just sending out a vendor and making money off of that. We don't make any money off of it. So let's just problem solve over the phone and before sending out a maintenance guy. And our fees we think are very realistic and in line with the market, but just top quality service. And I highly encourage you guys to look at our Yelp reviews and Google reviews for property management in any of the markets that we're in. And we're very transparent with our fees. I think transparency is such a crucial component of property management. There's a lot of hidden costs with some property management companies.
Yeah.
We have 3 fees. I mean, that's it. So feel free to jump on our website or ask us for additional information if you're interested in hiring us for that.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so what do we got cooking here?
Yeah, I think let's chat a little bit about some interesting investment products that we have available. These are, by the way, are all on our website. Jump onto marshallreddick.com and take a look at the investment properties that we have available for you guys to review. All of those are just put on our website by agents that are boots on the ground folks in these markets that are in Austin, that are in San Antonio and Cape Coral, Florida, that really know the nitty gritty of these markets, where the deals are. And we've partnered with some developers, and we've kind of scoped out whether or not their product is really a great investment for some of our clients. But I want to just give you a quick breakdown of the calculator here so you guys understand that we put a lot of energy and effort into underwriting the deals on our website. So first of all, at the very top, you're going to see on every pro forma the price. Now, on our website, all of this is you can play with all these numbers, meaning you can input and change the down payment, the closing costs, all of that, but we have that set just kind of as a base template. But in this case, we're doing a down payment of 30%. This is a new construction, incredibly beautiful product.
Beautiful.
Duplex. What I really like about this from a multifamily standpoint is you have garages for your tenants. They're really nice large units. They're 4-bedroom each, 3-bath each, and they have plenty of space to grow in. They're around 1,800 square feet per unit, and the entry doors are on either side of the building. Now, why is that important? Well, you don't have your tenants running into each other every 5 seconds, every time they're leaving the house for groceries, and it makes them feel like they live in a single family house. And the yard is actually separated out by a fence, meaning they have a private yard. So it feels and lives like a single family home, which means we can demand higher rent, and they tend to stay longer, right? It's not like an apartment complex when you were, in college, like a dorm or something. These are really beautiful properties, and they're in Buda, Texas, which is about 15 minutes outside of Austin.
It's a great location. And just to dive into it deeper, when you go and play into our website and you click on a specific market, maybe a specific address, we will give you a market analysis of that specific market. And it's a report. It's going to show you exactly what's going on in that market, what kind of employers are coming in, what's beside these properties. Is it a military base? Is it, a big distribution company? Whatever it is, but you'll know exactly why we choose these types of properties.
Yeah, the breakdown of all the employers in the area, vacancy rates, all that good stuff that we kind of just briefly touched upon. Each market has a 30-page report. We're happy to send them to you, but they're very prevalently available on our website for any property. Now, when we're jumping into this particular deal, we obviously illustrate how much investment capital would you need at 30% down here. Well, around 200 grand, right? Now, the gross rents here for both units combined are at just under 4,600. Now, how do we know that? Well, because we've rented some of these units out successfully already for some of our clients that are purchased. So that's why it's such a precise number, because we're actively finding tenants for these.
Oh, and the beauty about this, Chris, sometimes, guys, when the investor purchases the property, we already have a tenant in place. How cool is that?
In this community, that's definitely something that we've been doing, is finding tenants while we're closing on properties, because we know the developer and they'll give us that freedom to put in a tenant right before closing with a really great Marshall Reddick client. So
you're cash flowing day one.
Yeah.
Day one.
Interest rates. Now, this is one builder that is offering that forward commitment or that rate buy down that we spoke about. This is going to be around 4.75% for you. Fantastic in today's market.
Fantastic.
Include the taxes for Texas. Insurance, already figured that out for you guys. This is based off of estimates that we're getting from our insurance brokers. And management fees built in there. We will offer you guys 1 year free management on your first year if you buy a new construction product with us. I mean, it's something that the developer is throwing in as an incentive along with Marshall Reddick to kind of make it a little more palatable, because first year is really tough for, I think, for most investors. You run the numbers, and if year one looks good, you buy it, because year two will only get better. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's a deal.
HOA. Now, these communities are based in HOAs, we like HOAs because HOA, as long as it's not overly expensive and intrusive, it's just there to make sure there's no cars on the lawns and grass is getting cut, things like that, and you're not painting your next door neighbor's house pink. That's why we want HOAs, is to keep a little bit of uniformity and conformity, so that appreciation is definitely going to stay top of mind, right?
Yeah, and look at these HOAs. They're minimal and they're worth it.
Definitely. Monthly income here is projected at $700 a month, which means you're gonna have a cash flowing duplex. Now, if you want to take estimated maintenance and vacancy and input that, because eventually you're gonna have some maintenance, even though it's new construction, eventually you're gonna have some vacancy. Okay, so eventually you're gonna have a tenant that moves out, and you're gonna maybe go a couple of weeks while you get the house ready for the next tenant. We input that for you guys, and even at taking away over 10% for vacancy and maintenance, and even money for leasing out the property as commissions to agents for renting it out every 18 months, you're still cash flowing.
Yeah. And I think we're very conservative with our numbers, right, Chris?
Yeah.
Because we don't necessarily, like we were telling you, like that vacancy number could be completely gone just because we are renting these properties with tenants in them. So again, they're very conservative numbers. We predict that you're actually going to be cash flowing a little bit higher than that for sure. But we want to make sure that, we cover our bases and we're not putting any unreasonable expectations either.
Yeah, and one thing I like to mention too for folks is we look at year one projections, because year one projections are typically your worst projection, and over time your rents are going to grow. But our calculation here does not encounter or include any rent growth, right?
So keep that in mind.
So keep that in mind, because rents tend to grow similar to similar to inflation. So typically around 3.5% is pretty typical for a given market, especially a growth market like Central Texas.
Right.
You're going to see rents increase over time. Maybe they don't happen next year, but they're going to happen eventually. So your projected 15-year annual ROI on this per year is over 23% on your 200 grand that you invested, based off of the inflation rate, appreciation rate in Central Texas, as well as your cash flow numbers. Now, there are properties here at home right now in Long Beach that you can buy, or Orange County and LA, that are multifamily, but we wanted to use this as an illustration to show you guys how much more challenging sometimes it is here in our local communities to buy multifamily. Now, you might want to buy multifamily in California because you really believe in the appreciation here.
Definitely. And I have investors that prefer to do that.
And you bought multifamily here.
And I bought multifamily here.
Yeah, so I think there's definitely an investor that might find something like this attractive. I say that with like reticence just because I buy out of state. But I think what I like to show folks is, your gross rents are $9,000 on a $1.3 million product. That's actually pretty good for California. That's a pretty good rental return. But your cash flow is very similar to that duplex we just showed you, maybe a couple $100 more.
Yeah, but look at this.
Yeah, look at that. The investment capital needed is double. It's $400,000, $420,000. So your returns are a little lower, and that's assuming California appreciation. So that's why I looked out of state first, just because I think it's got more growth opportunity.
And here's another example of out of state. And this is a fourplex.
Yeah, this is a fourplex. So this is going to be a little bit more in line with that Long Beach property, but this is new construction, right?
Yep.
So this is brand new construction versus a Long Beach property might be from the 1970s, maybe.
Or even.
Yeah, 60s potentially.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Long Beach has got older inventory. Could be.
Or LA, 20s. I mean, 1900s.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Multifamily can go back 100 years down in LA. So in Texas, a lot of this product is new construction. So what does new construction offer you guys? Well, it offers you tenants really want a nice looking product, so high demand from a tenant perspective, but B, low maintenance over time. That Long Beach property, man, that roof might need to get replaced.
Oh yeah.
That the siding might need to be
plumbing.
Yeah, galvanized pipes, that kind of stuff. So I think with looking at new construction, you get a builder's warranty that's going to carry over for a number of years depending on the builder. This is a duplex product that's out in Cape Coral or Lehigh Acres, right adjacent to Cape Coral in Southwest Florida. We really like this builder. They build with, I think top of mind for folks is hurricanes. So they build everything to be very hurricane resistant, and these cash flow fantastically. Cash flow in Florida is great. And right now there's a lot of inventory on the market in Southwest Florida. I encourage you guys to read reports on what's happening in Cape Coral and those areas. But inventory is definitely higher there. And when I see high inventory, I chase deals, right?
Yep.
So
if the numbers work.
The numbers work. For me, when I buy investment real estate, I buy for long term, unless it's a flip, right? So I'm looking at 10, 15 years out, and I want to make sure the market dynamics are really stable. But if there's an opportunity where inventory is high for a temporary period, and I can pick up something that is attractive today,
you're going to do it.
I'm going to do it. So I think this is something to look at for sure. And then also single family homes.
Right, last but not least. The reason we bring up these single family homes is because we do have those forward commitment and rate buy down incentives as well. As you can see, this one has a 4.75 interest rate. And the Tennessee market is a stable market. It's slowly but surely grows little by little. If you want more of a stable market that you can count on, where there's still a lot of growth, especially like in Clarksville, then this is the way to go in Tennessee.
Absolutely agree. I mean, Clarksville's only about 45 minutes away from Nashville, city of music. Is that what we call Nashville? Right?
Yes, the blues, baby.
Yeah, it's a wonderful town. And Clarksville is kind of like the family-friendly suburb of Nashville.
Yeah.
There's a big military base there, Fort Campbell, that has a lot of employment, but as well as other, there's a university there too. Healthcare is great there. So
military base.
Yeah, absolutely. So
yep.
This single family home is brand new construction for Clarksville. This is like an A-class property, meaning it's great neighborhood, good school system, low crime rates, attracts really top-notch quality tenants. I just closed on one of these 2 weeks ago. I just got a text from my client and he said, we just found our tenant. So literally
my God,
in 2 weeks,
congratulations.
yeah, full price. So that was a big kudos to our agents out there that went and found that great tenant in just 2 weeks. So I'm really desirable area of
By the way, I mean, you can always fly there yourselves, but you don't have to. We have these amazing realtors, boots on the ground, part of our offices in Tennessee. And if you don't want to fly over there, they will FaceTime with you. They will show you what's going on out there. They will. They're doing it for me now as we speak for an investor that just sold his property here in Long Beach. And now he's looking into markets in Florida, Texas, and Tennessee. And what are my agents out there doing? They're literally showing them. And if you do want to fly out there, they will create an itinerary that's going to be efficient so you can just fly in, visit, choose, and then start raking in the dough.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I have clients from in LA that are doing a 1031 exchange and selling their LA condo and bringing cash out there and looking at some single family properties with one of our wonderful clients, Lisa. So yeah, our wonderful agent client. But Lisa's a fantastic agent. She'll show you around for sure.
No, well, we do, our job here as advisors to you guys is so that we match you with the right agent that's boots on the ground for you in those particular markets.
Yeah, and their expertise really plays a big
super expert. So what are you guys going to do? You're going to go have fun on our website and you're going to download this free property rating book because it's going to help you understand the classes of properties, why choose particular markets, exactly what Chris already went through. And it's free, guys. So all you have to do is log into the website, download it, and have some free bedtime reading.
Yeah, and this is kind of an evergreen book, really. I mean, it's something that was applicable 20 years ago. It's something that will be applicable in the next 20 years. It's just how do we classify properties? What type of properties do we want to go after? We rank them from essentially A to D class, really. And to give you guys just a quick breakdown, A class stands for, from my book, appreciation. It's going to attract just like your doctors and your lawyer types tenants.
Right, luxury properties.
Yeah, luxury properties are going to be in the best parts of town. But cash flow is going to be almost non-existent because the price of the property is going to be really high relative to the rents. B is a bit of both, bit of cash flow, a bit of appreciation, and your kind of standard neighborhood, decent school, relatively low crime, attracting your middle manager type folks, white collar workers.
Maybe a little bit blue collar.
Yeah,
too.
Maybe a little blue collar, like small business owners.
Right.
Now C class is going to be a little bit more working class, I would say, and that's going to be more cash flow focused. Maybe a little higher crime. Property prices are going to be a little lower, a little easier to enter the market as an investor, but appreciation is going to be a little lower, and you might have some more higher turnover between tenants, a little trickier to collect rent sometimes. And then D class.
But you don't have to worry about that because you have us.
But still to be aware of. I focus on A and B personally. And then D class is going to be lower income housing.
Right.
And I think D stands for don't do it. Unless you're an expert. I mean, but it's a challenging class to invest in.
So in addition to the beautiful rating handbook, you can also check out articles, guides, videos. We have so much free education on our website. It's amazing. You can join our webinars anytime that we have a webinar. You can join them in person when we have seminars as well. And these seminars are across the US in all our offices too. So just check out the calendar of events and then just start learning.
Yeah.
Marshall Reddick, when he founded the company, his whole motive was to give free information to our community so that our community could lift up themselves and get ultimately to financial freedom. And that's what we're here to do, is to help you guys get to that financial freedom. Whatever the game plan is that's what Chris and I will help you create, and then of course get to your goals.
Yeah. Create that kind of path of progress for you guys to buy your next investment property. Whether you're looking at single family or multifamily, we'll take a look at all the dynamics, like your risk tolerance, the amount of capital you're working with, your experience, all of that. So with all that being said, we really appreciate you guys hanging tight with us as we experience some technical difficulties and sitting tight, but hopefully it was educational, and we'll see you on the next webinar, and please feel free to reach out to us directly.
I just want to, before we log off, Chris, let's look at the questions real quick. Absolutely. I think we definitely answered a couple of the questions, but this one that says, why is there high inventory in Cape Coral? What is going on there?
Yeah, absolutely. I can answer that a bit. So in terms of Cape Coral, you have a couple of factors. I think a return to work. A lot of people move down to Southwest Florida because it's great weather, business friendly, it's beautiful. And some of those folks are getting that return to work, come back to New York to return to office, right? So they bought property, now they're putting it back in the market. Another thing is a hurricane hit them a couple of years ago, and they had to go through a lot of renovations in a lot of these properties, and they came online all at once as resale or all at once on the market for rent. So you have like a large influx of inventory that occurred just in the last like 6 to 9 months. And I think that those are probably the two main considerations I would make for that when it comes to a large influx of inventory in Cape Coral.
Well, thank you guys for all your time and attention. I know you guys took great notes, and you're going to call us.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night.
See you on the next one.